many things now dey happen o. Hey. Emefiele think saying smart, my people. Emefiele feel say and no go meet am. As news dey all over social media say they don't suspend Emefiele, say they don't sack Emefiele. No be smart thing o. Na Emefiele comot in suit o. Na so Emefiele comot in suit, comot in koko shoe. Say he wan pass land, enter another neighboring country. Not knowing that before they even comot Emefiele, Tinubu and him team, they don't prepare down. Say, anything wey make them fit suspend Emefiele, make them make sure say they go arrest Emefiele. Because Emefiele sef, body language don dey tell am say, this one wey we say they don't suspend am so, no power dey in hand again. Na so Emefiele rush o, go carry him passport, everything. Emefiele wan use land to escape. My people. So Emefiele, you yourself don't know say your hand no clean. Now make Emefiele wan come use land to take escape, my people. No be smart thing o. For where Emefiele wan use land to escape, now they arrest Emefiele o. Now they put the Emefiele for inside their motor. From there, now they bring flights come. Say Emefiele can't enter. Say they no go do wetin, they no go leave you for Lagos o, under the DSS for Lagos o. Say they must carry Emefiele go Abuja. Una know say na Abuja na it start this in Kurukere waka, where we say go to h0rt go confuse Oga Bubu. Based on say Oga Bubu feel say as people don dey drag and say he no try. Now Oga Bubu come dey sign dey go say Emefiele don talk say he wan boost Nigeria economic, everything go turn to times 5 before he go come off for office. Before you know, say people go start to dey hail and say Buhari work. No knowing say Emefiele wan lead people to hunger just because of say you dey support one person, no wan make one person enter. My people no be small thing. As I dey talk to una so, they don seize Emefiele passport. They say no more travel for Emefiele, because if need to make them leave Emefiele 1 minute like this, before you know, Emefiele go escape come up for Nigeria. Now they don't seize Emefiele passport o. Now Emefiele says so they don't still go collect order from court say may they continue to make Emefiele remain for their custody. They can't extend them, my people. My people no be small wahala Emefiele enter o. Now me say Tinubu mean business o. No be say na no say na Tinubu team. Na them soon Emefiele. Na them soon Emefiele. The time wey be say the new release new naira note, wey they talk say make old naira note they will. Maybe they use the old naira note together with the new naira note. Emefiele say no. Now, on a see wetin happen. Say, Tinubu don't talk say no be only to suspend Emefiele o. They can't carry Emefiele, arrest and finish, come still collect Emefiele document. My people no be smart, you know. Emefiele won't try to escape, come up for Nigeria, not knowing that they don't track Emefiele down. So say where Emefiele think say won't escape like this, now they owe Emefiele. My people make una go watch the way they say owe Emefiele. The way they say owe Emefiele, where the border where they forgo cash Emefiele, where they see Emefiele, oh say Emefiele, you are going nowhere. All the money where you don't chop, where you don't teach people, where you don't suffer, where we say their business don't destroy because of you. Come chop the punishment. My people make una go watch video.
Mr. Godwin Emefiele, Nigeria's central bank governor, is being in the news, but not for the good reasons. Well, the office of the secretary to the government of the federation released a statement that, quote, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has suspended the central bank governor, Mr. Godwin Emefiele, CFR, from office with immediate effect. This is a sequel to the ongoing investigation of his office and the planned reforms in the financial sector of the economy. End of quote. By morning, there were reports of his arrest, which at first the Department of State Services, the DSS, denied, but later in the day, they came out to announce to Nigerians that indeed they have arrested Mr. Emefiele. Well, in that statement, it quotes, the Department of State Services hereby confirms that Mr. Godwin Emefiele, the suspended governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, is now in its custody for some investigative reasons. And that's drew the attention of a lot of Nigerians. Since then, Nigerians have been analyzing the issues raised by the president's decision. There are legal angles to this matter because this is not the very first time a CBN governor would be suspended. In fact, Mr. Emefiele's successor was also suspended as well. The matter went to court, but part of what we might be analyzing tonight. However, Mr. Emefiele will be perhaps the only CBN governor that would have worked under 3 different presidents and also lucky to have had his tenure renewed. So he's serving a second term of 5 years, as stipulated by the CBN Act. What does the arrest mean? What are the implications of the suspension and the arrest on the CBN's activities and the economy? Tonight, we're looking at the legal angles and all of the issues that have been raised. A lot of Nigerians, eminent Nigerians, have been speaking about this and drawing the attention of the world to what has happened. Those who are differ to what the federal government has done, and those who are in support, and those who are drawing some caution. And that's Mr. Emefiele, who is said to have been arrested in some part of Lagos, taken to the airport via a private jet and flown to Abuja. Tonight, I'm being joined by a very senior lawyer and human rights activist, Mr. Clement Nwankwo. He joins us virtually from Abuja. Thank you so much, Mr. Nwankwo, for joining us. And let me begin by asking tonight, just like a lot of Nigerians, I'd like to know how the news of Mr. Emefiele's suspension came to you.
Well, certainly not unexpected, but as a lawyer, I am very much more concerned about due process, and I am very much concerned about following the constitutionality in doing this. Everyone knew, of course, that Mr. Emefiele was going to come to a sad end because of the way that he has managed the central bank, because of the lack of professionalism that he's exhibited in his work, and because he really crossed the boundaries of professionalism. So it was quite clear that he was going to be out of the CBN. The question was when and who would do it. I think what is really disappointing, of course, is that when you look at the laws that establish the CBN, the Central Bank Act, there are provisions for removing a governor of the central bank. And I think for all of us who are watching the situation, it's a question really to ensure that we follow due process. This is a government where you do have a new president who has just come in. For a very long time, we had President Jonathan, of course, but this is a civilian who has emerged as president. So the concern for me is to be sure that we follow due process, not just because we want to lay precedents, but also really because of the economic implications. In normal climes, the economy will be in turmoil right now. The currency will be in turmoil as a result of a central bank governor being suspended from office. And we could go into that discussion, but really there is no provision in the CBN Act that allows for the central bank governor to be suspended by the president. The unfortunate thing is, of course, the role of the National Assembly, the Senate particularly, which had the power to confirm him, but which has failed woefully to intervene. And you can stretch this to several other aspects of the Nigerian situation to see how much the Senate has failed in its oversight responsibilities and in its powers of appointing and removal of public officials.
Before I come into the legality and the sections, relevant sections upon which the appointment and the removal of a central bank governor, it does look like the law that is guiding the activities of the CBN also recognize the role of the deputy governor just as much it recognizes the role of the CBN. And so in so many of those clauses, it talked about the CBN governor and the deputy governor of the CBN. But before I come to that, Mr. Nwankwo, can you tell us what are those infractions or alleged infractions that are obvious? It does look to me that suspension of Mr. Emefiele came as a very popular conversation and discourse for Nigerians. I mean, would you describe his suspension as something that came as perhaps a popularly accepted decision of the government?
Well, I do not think that you can apply the law as a popularity issue. It's a question of following process. Mr. Emefiele's reputation across the country is something that we all are concerned about, but certainly I think that the question of whether his arrest is popular or not is really not the conversation.
Because one thing that is also very important is also the interest of Nigerians. One thing that the law says is one thing also whether the government is also trying to pander to the feelings and the feelers that he's getting from the people of Nigeria. But let me ask quickly, what are those infractions, the obvious one and perhaps the not obvious one, that you imagine that Mr. Emefiele would have set before himself as landmines?
I'm not sure I can imagine what the infractions are. We will have to see from the authorities what the allegations are against him. And let's not forget that under the law, he is deemed innocent until charged to court and proven guilty. So at this time, it would not be very useful to engage with the mob in stoning Mr. Emefiele. But certainly I think that given his very crucial role in the economy and as an observer who has observed his work, it was quite clear that his role as CBN governor, which is dealing with the monetary policies of the country, has not necessarily aligned with the physical side of things. Of course, the CBN is an independent institution. It's set up to be independent by the CBN Act. But you must align your monetary policies with the fiscal policies. And I think that clearly even the Ministry of, the Federal Minister of Finance, the Federal Minister of Budget and National Planning were very disappointed in their inability to work with him. He never really worked with them. He always constantly ran to the president, the former president, Muhammadu Buhari, rather than having a coordinated conversation and coordinated work with the Minister of Finance that is his closest ministry. Secondly, I think he dabbled a lot into politics. And if we look at the EndSARS protest of 2020, we saw how the institution of the central bank was used to muzzle people who the CBN identified or claimed to have identified as ringleaders of that protest, which was a valid protest against police brutality in this country and which remains unresolved. The CBN governor was very active in clamping down on several of those that it said were involved in those protests. A lot of bank accounts were frozen. Some banks, in fact, suffered suffered penalties for the banking services they provided to the leaders of the EndSARS protest. And then the most heinous, I would say, was trying to run for elections in the primaries of the ruling party, the APC. The Central Bank Act was quite clear in saying that you couldn't take up any other position being governor of Central Bank, and quite clear as well about non-partisanship. So I think it was quite brazen to see people addressing press conferences, people claiming that they had bought nomination forms for a central bank governor. This is completely unprecedented. There is no doubt that removing the central bank governor is a popular decision. I think it's welcome. But my point about it is that it requires to be done with due process. The president has no powers to suspend the CBN governor. The Senate, which had the power to confirm him, should have been the one acting. They should have acted long before now. I think the Senate, we need to look at how the 10th Senate would take things forward, but the 9th Senate was not very able to respect and implement its powers. And we saw that even more recently with these elections that have just been conducted, that you saw the president, President Buhari, announce the suspension of a resident electoral commissioner from Zamfara for his alleged infractions. Again, the president has no powers to remove anybody from the Electoral Commission. The Senate has those powers, and the Senate should be responsible enough and accountable to Nigerians to not only confirm the right persons, but also ensure that where they infringe on the laws that create those positions, that they can act to remove such an appointee. And I think that the Senate takes a lot of responsibility for a central bank governor that really went beyond the call of duty and went beyond his powers and acted in a way that was very, very much in contradiction of the role of the CBN governor.
I mean, there was an article published today in an online newspaper written by Professor Chidi Odinkalu, which he titled Godwin Emefiele's Overdue Desserts. In that, he chronicled a lot.
My people, now the video now on a new watch finish, so on a see what it happen for inside the video. All right, my people, I go like to end the video for you. Make una let me know waiting on a thing for the comment section, and if una never subscribe, make una subscribe to my YouTube channel so that una no go miss any latest gist wey I dey upload. And those of una will be see una never follow my Facebook page, make una follow so that una no go still miss any latest gist wey I dey upload. And bye bye till I come on our next time. Bye guys, see you guys in my next video. Bye guys.